My video for March the 14th, 2020 is video number 3395. The title is Mount Rushmore Memorial, Patriotism, Truth. When I was younger, I was much more patriotic than I am now. That's because I've had time to actually examine things I was taught and took for granted. Of course, this includes religion, but I also reassess my perceptions related to what is commonly referred to as America. For a long time, I have had a replica of Mount Rushmore Memorial on my library shelves. It features 4 US presidents: George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt, and Abraham Lincoln. Of the 4, Jefferson stands out to me as the wisest and therefore greatest of presidents up to and including Trump. The replica is labeled Shrine of Democracy. As I see it, the world has been greatly deceived. The US was not founded as a democracy, but as a republic. Lincoln destroyed that. And as I see it, Roosevelt doesn't fit the role as great. If we, the people, had not been so undereducated and ill-informed, we would know the difference. Quote, I pledge allegiance to the flag and to the republic for which it stands. End quote. We said that every day in school as I grew up. I don't think that is the case any longer. We've been dumbed down and are ignorant of history. Here is my little replica, the Shrine of Democracy. And I just named the 4 US presidents that are depicted there. And I actually grew up admiring Mr. Lincoln. The Gettysburg Address, I used to be able to say it verbatim. 7 years ago, our fathers put forth in this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. I could go on, but I'm not going to. I look at this now. George Washington was the first president because he was the general that led the charge against the British. Remember, the British were not friends of America. They have never been friends of America from a corporate standpoint, from the standpoint of the elite establishment. We've always been an anathema, people standing up and saying we want to be free. I wish we could all be free, regardless of what continent we live on, regardless of what color our skin is, regardless of what religion we may or may not practice, regardless of all of the things that have been used to drive a wedge between us and keep us bound by ignorance and devoid of truth that could really set us free and enable us to love one another. I know that sounds like a theme that I keep playing over and over, and it is, because I want to see real change, not something to believe in, but something to experience. I have friends that are sending me things about they're getting ready now to announce the Republic. And they're going to arrest a whole lot of the deep state criminals, I guess around the world, actually, not just in the United States. And I think that would be a good thing if it actually happened. I'm not convinced it's going to happen, despite friends that keep insisting that it's imminent. Well, I've been hearing about the imminence of this for almost 4 years, and probably actually before that. But 4 years ago, in June, I invested in an alternative currency because it was going to enable me to play a role in bringing more equanimity to people all over the world. And I'd like to see third world countries be raised up. I'd like to see nations all over the world be beacons of hope, where people could actually aspire to something more than what their caste places them in. And when I say caste, of course, I'm referring to the caste system that is predominant in India. Hopefully that's breaking down some, but who knows? There is no such thing as an elite class. The elite class is the problem, unless you say we're all elite, but that's not how the elite see it. When I say the elite, I'm talking about those that claim to be in charge of everything. They have lied and stolen and murdered and committed all sorts of crimes against you and me as representatives of humanity. We don't even know, it barely scratches the surface how little we know of the stories that are our real history as a human race. We just don't know because we haven't been taught. I think Jefferson, who was a soft-spoken man, you know, when he gave his talks, you could sometimes barely hear him because he was a humble individual. At least that's what I've read about him. Of course, I never met him, but based on what I have read and learned about, I mean, he stands out as head and shoulders above everyone else because of his humility, because of his willingness to try to make peace, but not at the expense of truth. That's the key, not at the expense of the truth. And we, all of us, have our predispositions towards certain ideas that we want to push forward. Now, somebody sent me a thing about, oh God, I forgot his name, the Congress senator that's running for president, Bernie Sanders, and extolling Sanders. Well, Sanders is to me, he's a communist. I mean, I could never support him because to him, the Constitution is a meaningless piece of paper. George Bush, of course, was the one that said that. I'm talking about Boy Bush. It's just a goddamn piece of paper. No, they are principles that were laid down, and Jefferson was instrumental in writing both the Declaration and working on the Constitution of the United States, which set the United States apart from all other nations at that time. And we need to come back to that principle of freedom for everyone, men, women, regardless of all of the things that have driven a wedge between us. And we need to learn to come together as one people on a singular planet in what we call the solar system and what is more widely referred to as the universe. We need to reawaken a spirit of freedom. And I'd like to see someday a memorial to our liberation from the lies and the deception that have held us enslaved for such a long time to a monetary system and to a political system that is simply dishonest. And that's being kind. Anyway, folks, I continue to struggle. And this is one of the videos that I had hoped to make several days ago on my list, but I'm finally getting around to some of those topics. Thank you, folks, again for listening, and namaste.